we started Sunday Ticket, it was just a commercial license. You could only get it in bars and restaurants. Then I think it was 3 years later that we introduced it at home. And of course, now home has more revenues than the commercial licenses. It's amazing 25 years later to see its growth and how important it still is to everyone.
New episodes of Bar Rescue will premiere on the Paramount Network on Sunday, February 26th. So what can fans expect from these new sets of episodes?
Well, I guess I can give you one word, I think, Brian, and that would be intense. You know, last season we had the pandemic, pretty valid excuse, right? Businesses weren't doing well, people weren't out, government closures, all that kind of stuff, pretty darn valid. This year, there's no more excuses. Yep, we have inflation, it's hard to find employees, but operators need to be better than ever before to overcome these things. So they got to up their game. So this year, no excuses, buddy. It's, gloves out. We're fighting pretty hard and a lot of emotion this year. You're going to see me tear up a couple of times. A couple of family houses are on the line. College education funds are on the line. Parents' retirement funds. One owner blew $400,000 of his parents' retirement, Brian. Can you believe it? Left his parents broke. So these are powerful, emotional stories. And that's what you're going to see this season, is an intense and emotional season.
When it comes to these new sets of episodes, is there a common mistake you see when it comes to these bars?
Oh, I think that probably the most common mistake I see across all of them, and that's a great question, is accountability. I've done about 240 episodes, Brian, and it's remarkable to me. Every time when I say, why are you failing? Never once have they said I'm failing because of me or the choices that I made. It's always somebody else's fault or something else's fault. They never own their failure. And I found if we own our failure, that's when we find success. That's when we grow. If we don't know we're failing or admit that we're failing, why the heck would we change? So that's the biggest problem I have. And that's where the biggest fights and intensity comes into play, is when I try to hold them accountable for their own failure.
Absolutely. And when it comes to these new episodes, Maria Menounos returns, a recurring person to be on Bar Rescue. So how much do you enjoy working with her?
Well, Maria is one of my best friends. So Maria and her husband, Kevin, are really good friends. So in the beginning, I twisted her arm to come on the show. She got sick from the food that she ate. She drank a strawberry mixer that had been dated 2 years earlier. And she said laughingly at the end of the show, "This destroyed our friendship. I'm never talking to you again." Kidding, of course. Then the next season, I twisted her arm, got her to do it again. Now she's done, I think, 4 or 5 episodes, and she's become a great asset to the show. But it all started with our friendship and my desire to have her come be on set. But this is a pretty intense one. There's a couple of wrestlers on board with them as well this episode. So you're going to see Maria at her best.
And along with Maria, there's also a couple of NFL players that are going to be on the show, Courtland Sutton and Bradley Chubb. So what can we expect from them?
Well, it's interesting. I bring them in because they do a lot of appearances in sports bars and stuff. So they know a good sports bar. So I bring them into this bar. They've never worked with me before. Sometimes they have no idea what's going to happen when they come inside. So they sit at the bar, they sit at the table, they have their drinks, they have their food. And then I come in like a bat out of hell. And sometimes food is flying. I'm screaming, I'm yelling. And we're, at the end, they said it was more intense than a game.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see that. And one of the things you mentioned before when it comes to the bar industry in these last couple of years is the pandemic, the changes that the bar industry has to go through. So what's the biggest difference you noticed with bars and restaurants since the pandemic?
It's interesting, Brian. People wanted to get back out again, for sure. We did have this pent-up need to be with each other, look in each other's eyes. I mean, the fact that you're not wearing a mask and I can see your smile and stuff is something we missed for a long, long time with each other. So people have come back. The challenge is we need the employees to serve them, right? We need the products to be able to sell them. So from a top line standpoint, the industry is doing great. Now we just got to get our people and our operations together. But it's a very exciting time for the industry because people have come back so strongly.
Absolutely. And one last question for me before I let you go is, along with Bar Rescue, you're credited for starting NFL Sunday Ticket. NFL Sunday Ticket is going to be on YouTube next year after being on DirecTV since 1994. So what are your thoughts on this move?
It's unbelievable, the billions of dollars involved in these transactions now, Brian. I remember when we started it, it wasn't available at home. When we started Sunday Ticket, it was just a commercial license. You could only get it in bars and restaurants. Then I think it was 3 years later that we introduced it at home. And of course, now home has more revenues than the commercial licenses. It's amazing 25 years later to see its growth and how important it still is to everyone. But it's fascinating to see it go from a television provider to an internet service. That's a big transition for people.
It is.
So we'll see how it goes. YouTube paid a lot of money for it, but it could change their whole platform and really move them into a whole new world. So I think it's exciting when you look at what's happening with streaming services and television networks and the new opportunities that exist for content out there. It's a transitory time for sure, but it's an exciting time.
It really is. Well, Jon, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And congratulations on the new episodes of Bar Rescue and continued success to you.